All right,
Okay.
we want to welcome the Cincinnati Community Kollel back from a short summer break, part one of their break. And now that they are back in session, we are very excited to be back to our Thursday night Parsha class. Tonight, Rabbi Meissner prepared some Divrei Torah for us, and we are very excited to hear his Divrei Torah on the Parsha.
Thank you, Rabbi Alt. Thank you for the privilege of being here. Parshas Pinchas, a lot to say. And at the same time, it's the 3 weeks. It just hit me today that perhaps we'll make time to talk about a very nice lesson that has to do with Tisha B'Av. It's not too early. That's what the 3 weeks are essentially for. It's to prepare for Tisha B'Av. A lot of times I wake up, it's like 9 days about Tisha B'Av already. I never properly prepared. So although there's a lot to say on Parshas Pinchas, we will say one or two things and share a wonderful thought about Tisha B'Av. One very, very nice lesson is actually seen at the end of the Parsha when Moshe Rabbeinu is told to appoint Yeshua as his successor. And the pasuk tells us, "V'nasata mehoidcha alav," you shall place from your majesty upon him, upon Yeshua. Moshe is supposed to transfer some of that hoid, that majesty, to Yeshua. And he will be the next leader of the Jewish people. And Rashi says that it says mehoidcha. There's a prefix of a mem, from your majesty. That hints to us, that implies that some of the majesty will not be transferred. From your majesty, you should transfer to Yeshua, but not all of it. And the Medrash is quoted, we learn from here that the face of Moshe shone like the sun, and the face of Yeshua like the moon. The face of Moshe like the sun, and the face of Yeshua like the moon. And the Gemara in Baba Basra says a little bit more detail. He says that the elders, the Zikanim Shabbai Sadar, the elders of that generation would say, the face of Moshe is like the sun, the face of Yeshua is like the moon. Woe to us for this busha, for this embarrassment. Woe to us for this embarrassment. Moshe is like the sun, Yeshua is only like the moon. And some of the Mefarshim, the commentaries ask, why specifically the Zikanim, the elders of the generation? Doesn't everybody know the difference between the sun and the moon? Why does the elders of the generation have to tell us that the difference between Moshe's face and Yeshua's face is like the sun and the moon? Everyone knows the difference. And there are different explanations. We'll just touch on them quickly, and then we'll get to our point today. Is the Vilna Gaon and the Ksaf Sefer say that the younger ones never recognized Moshe from when he was younger. They were younger. They see Moshe now as an accomplished leader already. And they thought perhaps because he's older now, after working on himself for so many years, he attained such great heights. But perhaps once Yeshua, he's younger now. But if he grows and he works on himself and he gets older as he goes along, he will also attain those great heights, perhaps just like Moshe. And on that, the elders said, no, the elders who recognized Moshe Rabbeinu from when Moshe Rabbeinu was very young already saw that Moshe Rabbeinu was different from that age already. You can't compare Yeshua to Moshe, right? Even when Moshe was appointed as a leader to the Jewish people at a young age, he was already on such a high plateau, and he grew and he grew. So they knew that Yeshua, no matter how great he is, he's never going to reach the same level as Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why specifically the elders of the generation made that contrast. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Pnei Moshe is like the sun, and Pnei Yeshua is like the moon. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshet, to throw in, is a very cute shot in the name of the Mefarshim that say that the whole time that the Jewish people were in the desert, they never did Kiddush Levana. That they never sanctified the new month, the new moon, by looking at the moon. Rather, they used their own calculations. Why? Because they were completely surrounded by the Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory, in all directions. They were surrounded. They didn't see the moon the whole time they were in the desert. So, therefore, the younger people of that generation weren't able to tell the difference between the face of Moshe and the face of Yeshua, the sun and the moon, because they didn't see it, plain and simple. They never saw the moon, based on the Mefarshim that say they never did Kiddush Levana. But the elders of the generation who remember what it looked like in Mitzrayim still, before they got down to Ananei HaKavod, they remember what these things looked like. So therefore, they were able to discern and differentiate between the sun and the moon. That's another interesting shot where the Zikanim, the elders, are. Al-pi al-derech ha-musar. An insight can be said like this. Why the elders of the generation? The elders of the generation, when they saw the face of Yeshua shining like the moon, this isn't coming to say that Yeshua pales in comparison to Moshe Rabbeinu. This is actually a great benefit to Yeshua. And it's as follows. The elders of the generation said that, wow, we were in the same boat. We were in the same yeshiva. We were all together with Yeshua. And we still remain where we are today. And Yeshua is like the moon. The moon, it reflects the light of the sun. It takes the light of the sun and reflects it and gives off light to the rest of the world. It accepts, it receives the light from the sun. Yeshua is the only one who was Zeich, who merited to that, because he worked on himself and he stayed by Moshe Rabbeinu. We were all there to learn Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu, but we remained where we are, and Yeshua escalated to be like the moon, who basks in the light of the sun and reflects that to others. They were saying that about themselves. We missed out on this opportunity. We were all together, yet Yeshua is the only one that rose. Such a powerful, it just hit me that it's such a powerful lesson that so many people, you have it, we're together, and one person is head and shoulders above everybody else. He takes things to the next level. He made use of his opportunity in life, and he's raised to different levels. It reminds me of a fantastic story that Dayan Yitzchak Tuvia Weiss from Eretz Yisrael, big Dayanim in Eretz Yisrael. This was at the time of the Holocaust, and what happened was the king or the prime minister, whoever was the ruler of England at that point, even a king. I know some of those who know history a little better can clarify, but was informed of the plight of the Jewish people, the European Jewry, and he felt bad, and he decided, you know what, we're going to save 1,000 young Jewish boys, young Jewish children. We're going to send them on a ship. We're going to bring them to England, and they were able to secure that. 1,000 young Jewish children were saved, were sent on a boat to England, and Dayan Weiss was among those 1,000 people. When they arrived on the shores of England, they were given a message that we're going to all line up, you're all to line up, and the King of England is going to be passing by in his chariot, and he wants to meet everybody, he wants to meet the young boys that he saved, and we're going to all line up, and everyone's going to wave and cheer on the king and thank the king for saving their lives, simply put. The boys, they all lined up, and the king started the procession going by, and everyone showering the king with praises and thanks and cheers. And in the middle of this, everyone is standing nicely. One young child just bolts out from his place in line and jumps into the king's chariot, his carriage there. And that just started a whole hullabaloo. And everyone's like, get him off. What's he doing here? Yank him off. And the king says, "What's that? He looks like he's in pain. He wants to tell me something. Leave him be." "Yes, my child, what would you like?" And the young child, with such pain on his face, says, "My parents in Europe, who knows what's being happened? They're taken to these concentration camps. They took my whole family away. There's nothing. Please, you were so kind to us to save us. Save my family." And the king took those words to heart. He's like, "Please tell me, what's your parents' names? Which town did they live in? Where did you see them last? Where are they?" And he took his information. He's like, "We'll try to take care of it." And they sent him off. And not too long afterwards, the family was saved. The king arranged that this young boy's family was saved and brought back to safe shores. And Dayan Weiss was saying, one boy did the move. What about the other 999 of us? What happened to the rest of their families? One boy, we were all together. We were all in the same boat. Everything was the same. One boy made the move. He jumped onto the king's chariot and he got his family saved. So opportunities arise in life to everybody. And it's a scary thing because sometimes people miss their opportunities. We don't know. We're not given the message that this is what it is. But that's why we're always on the alert. As the Mesilas Yesharim tells us, we're like a soldier at the battle. And the battle is confronting him on all sides. And in order to be victorious, he can't close his eyes for a moment. He has to keep fighting. We always have to live with the proper ideals and serving Hashem. And if we keep that on our mind constantly and never let our guard down, then of course Hashem is going to allow us to take these opportunities and raise to greater heights. There are many more lessons and fantastic ideas on Pinchas, but Just got inspired to talk about Tisha B'Av. And again, the Gemara tells us that the famous Gemara at the end of Tainus that says, whoever is misabel, mourns over Yerushalayim, is going to merit to see its rebuilding. Not everyone's going to merit. Only those who mourn properly over it. And conversely, those who don't will not merit. And there's a lot to talk about. Of course, it's hard for us. You haven't experienced the Korban. All the questions that everyone has, they're very, very true. And as a matter of fact, there are many Sfarim that say the reason that we're still in Galus, one of the reasons we're still in Galus is because we don't mourn enough over Yerushalayim. Very powerful words. And again, the way it is in our generation is much harder. Years ago, it used to be not even so long ago, the Shtetlach in Europe, during the 3 weeks, shopkeepers would close their shop at midday in Chatzos and all get on the floor and say Tikkun Chatzos with tears streaming down their faces. They would just close up shop, say Tikkun Chatzos and get back up and continue on with the work of the rest of the day. That's how life was, not too long ago. But we're in a different generation, and we have to see what can we take out of this, and it's important so we can prepare ourselves. Instead of Tisha B'Av just coming in a flash without us being properly prepared for the day, the more we just even think about it just for a little bit. Rabbi Victor Miller would say, you want to be a great man? Sit on the floor 1 minute, for 1 minute, just 1 minute, no more. Contemplate, think about your Shalom, and get up and go to sleep. Nobody has to see you. Your wife shouldn't have to see you. Your husband should sit on 1 minute. You're ready, head and shoulders above most other people. We have to do what we can. And again, just showing the gap, how we are in our days, is that the Chassam Sofer, I read once somewhere, unbelievable thing. Chassam Sofer said once, when somebody led Tikkun Chatzos in his yeshiva during the 3 weeks, when they would talk about the Korban, it's a time where we're supposed to be crying and contemplating the destruction. And one time, like a sub, Chazan got up. He wasn't like the first one who would arouse everyone to tears, and he just sort of went through it. And the Chassam Sofer said something to the fact that he must be from the Shabsai Tzvi cult. He's not moved when he says Tikkun Chatzos. So like, wow, it just blew me away when I heard that. Just shows us that what the generations used to be like. Anyways, to just tell you over a beautiful insight that I heard from Rav Usher Eisenberger a few years ago, and I've listened to it every year since. It was so powerful for me. I'll try to encapsulate that in just a few minutes. The Rambam in his introduction goes through the 613 mitzvahs, and he says that there are a few other mitzvahs that became nischadesh, renewed after Matan Torah. The Chachamim enacted them, and they spread out through all of Klal Yisrael. For example, Megillah, Chanukah, and Tainus Tisha B'Av. That's one of those, in addition to the Torah mitzvahs, what the Chachamim enacted. And the question is, Torah Hashem Tamima. The Torah of Hashem is perfect. There's nothing missing. So if the Torah didn't include that, why did the Chachamim feel a need to add? What's missing from the Torah? Nothing's missing in the Torah. He said a beautiful answer from Rabbi Yaakov Weinberg. Everything that the Chachamim enacted is because there's a certain deficiency. Chas v'shalom, nothing's lacking in the Torah. If everything is as it should be, there's nothing that needs to be added. The fact that Chachamim felt there's a need to add something shows that there's a deficiency. We're not on the madreg, on the level where we should be. If we would be on that level, it wouldn't be necessary. Take, for example, the institution of Beis Yaakov. This is a relatively new thing. A few hundred years ago, no Beis Yaakovs existed. Yeah, it was transmitted from mother to daughter, from parent to child for all these years. It was not needed. Nowadays, it's a must. We need Beis Yaakovs. Absolutely. But why was it enacted? Because there was a deficiency. Girls weren't learning the proper things. They were hanging out. They were doing whatever it was. They weren't getting the Messiah transmitted to them. It was due to deficiency where it was enacted. And now we need it, absolutely. But this just goes to show you when things are added, it's because of deficiency. Even Chadarim for boys. We find this earliest in the times of the Gemara. We find certain Amoram talk about these things, but this didn't always used to be like that. And so the idea is there are two ways to live life, a spiritual life. We can live life checking off the boxes. And surface level, they seem the same. We're gonna go through our daily schedule. We'll learn the daf. We'll keep kosher. We daven. We do what we have to do, and then give me my time to myself. It's almost like we're paying taxes. When people pay taxes, you don't pay any more than you have to, right? You pay. I'm a citizen. I'm an honest, hardworking citizen that cares about the place where I live. I pay my taxes, but I'm not going to pay any more than I have to. And so that's one method of Judaism. I'm doing everything. Davening, I'm going to my shir, but then now it's my time. Or a life, another option is a life with HaKadosh Baruch, with a kesher, with a strong bond to Hashem. It's a whole different, on the surface, the two people might look the same, but it's so different inside. How am I living life? Am I doing everything I do in my day because I'm connecting with Hashem and I want that relationship, or I'm doing things that I have to do? This is what Tisha B'Av is about. Tisha B'Av is one day a year where we stop and we recalibrate. How is our life? Let's go through our daily life. How am I doing the things that I do? Even my spiritual things. Am I doing like I'm paying up taxes, or because I'm yearning for that connection with Hashem? What on the surface may seem good, you have to dig deeper. Is there a deficiency? And we say a famous tefillah, Nachem, Tisha B'Av, by Mincha time. We say Nachem, Hashem should comfort the city of Yerushalayim. We have many adjectives there. What do we have here? It says the mourners of Yerushalayim and the city, that's Avela, right? That's mourning, and Bizuya, disgraceful, Shemema, desolate, right? And Chareva, destroyed. So some people ask, what do you mean? Look at this, it's beautiful. Look at Yerushalayim, look at Eretz Yisrael, it's being rebuilt. People are coming back, so many people making Aliyah, it's beautiful. How are we saying that? It's destroyed, it's Bizuya, it's Shemema. What does that mean? And there's a mashal, a tremendous mashal that Rabbi Ovadia Yosef says. I think he said this mashal when the Jews got the Kollel back in 47. They got the Western Wall back, and everyone was thrilled. This is it. The Geula is coming. And Rabbi Ovadia said a mashal. Said there was once two friends that grew up in the same town, and one of them moved on to a different city, different town, and he became eventually a very wealthy businessman and fabulously wealthy fellow, while the other one just stayed in that town where he was, and he was just a poor man, didn't have any money, and that's how life continued in that same town. And they both raised families throughout the years, and after many years of not seeing each other, the wealthy one decided, you know what, let me revisit my old friend. Let me go and see how he's doing. So he makes the trip there, and he hears he's back in that old town, same old little house there, and he goes and he sees outside some of the kids running around in tattered clothing. It just looks so poor, and the house is decrepit. And he realizes, oh my goodness, why don't I should have brought a gift for them. My old friend should have brought gifts for the children, for the family. What he had with him was a sack of potatoes. Let me at least give this to them. And he gives a sack of potatoes to the child. The child's eyes light up. He turns to his brother. You see what we got? A sack of potatoes. And he runs inside the house, calling his mother, father, look what we got, the sack of potatoes. And they go and they meet each other, etc. And what the rich man realized, only once he gave him the sack of potatoes, once he saw how happy they were, only then did he realize how sad the situation was. Till then, they were poor. We didn't know exactly how bad it was. But when he saw the simcha over that sack of potatoes, he realized how bad the situation was. And the nimshal is, when things on surface level, it seems good. We have to dig deeper. When we got the Kollel back, it's beautiful. Baruch Hashem, it's nice. It's beautiful. We could have a place, we could go back and down there again. But the simcha that they had, that shows us that there's something wrong. We're not there yet. If this is what we're so happy about, it's Rabbi Ovadia said it's like the sack of potatoes. It's a beautiful thing. But this isn't it. This isn't the Yerushalayim that we need. And the same thing when we say Nachem. He said, Yerushalayim, yes, people are coming back. It's a wonderful thing. Making Aliyah and Eretz Yisrael, it's such a wonderful place. But we still have to know it is Bizuya, it's Chareba. If we know what the Beis HaMikdash really was and what we're missing out, we'll realize that we're in a really sad state. We can't be thrilled that this is happening because it's being happy over the sack of potatoes ultimately. It is a beautiful thing, and we shouldn't get that wrong. It's a beautiful thing. People come to Eretz Yisrael, people down by the Kollel, etc., etc. But we have to realize it's not how it is. It's ultimately, in the big scheme of things, compared to the Beis HaMikdash, it's like the sack of potatoes. That's why we have to remember the Korban. In the times of the Beis HaMikdash, everyone had parnasa. There were no sicknesses. Any people who had children, they were all the status of Tanaim. Every woman that bore a child. We can't imagine what we were missing. That's something maybe perhaps I'll connect us to the Chumrah if we realize what we're missing. So again, in the weeks coming up to Tisha B'Av, it's not a time to be somber necessarily for no reason. We should just think about, yes, it's a far cry from those times. The reason why the Chachamim added Tisha B'Av is, again, because there's a deficiency. The Torah is not missing anything. But because we're not on that level, the Chacham had to enact the Tisha B'Av. And it's so important for us. And it's one of the most important days of the year. Just to remember, to hope to realize what we're missing and to recalibrate. Are we being happy over the figurative sack of potatoes in our lives, in our spiritual lives? If we think about this going into Tisha B'Av, Be'ezras Hashem, when we prepare properly, just contemplate, like Rabbi Miller said even, it's a good idea, something very simple. 1 minute, sit on the floor, just 1 minute. Just contemplate what we're missing. Think about our lives. Are we just doing things to create a bond with Hashem or just to pay off our taxes, so to say? And if we do this properly, Mitzvah Hashem, even us in our Miskatnu Adairs, we're not like the previous generations, but if we show our Mesiras Nefesh, we do what we can. Hashem loves that. And we will, Mitzvah Hashem, be from that group that are considered to be mourners over Yerushalayim and will merit to see the Simcha, the rebuilding of Yerushalayim, Mitzvah Hashem, B'karav B'yamin.
Amen.
Great Shabbos.
Shekayach, Rabbi Meissner. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos.
Great Shabbos.